how can we start to formulate an idea that's going to benefit everyone or a specific group of people if we can't understand what their reasons for acting are?
To think that you have the best way for everyone, it's factually incorrect because different people don't value what you value.
Yes.
People value other stuff, and that's okay. How are you doing today, mate?
I'm going good, mate. Fantastic Sunday.
That's
Looking a bit overcast, might rain, but we're here to bring some thunder and be the excitement.
As always, that's it. So thanks once again for joining us on Raw Truth episode number 17. This is entitled Kingdom of Fear, about the song Kingdom of Fear, which you guys just saw in the intro there, Wally playing the drums and carving up on the song. So, welcome to the Raw Truth. This is the place where we create a collaboration of knowledge and power in the heavy metal community through conversation and action around contemporary social issues and interpersonal struggles through Wartooth music. So today, as I said, Kingdom of Fear. It's the very first song Wally and I ever wrote together as a band. It's slightly political, slightly psychological. It's got a lot of sort of different angles in it, but we're going to talk about some of those today, and we're going to talk about sort of the meaning behind it.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, you know, it's not until we actually dive deep and, you know, we start talking about the parts of the song where you start to actually unravel all the different pieces, and it's like, oh, that's applicable here, it's applicable here, and it can spread itself so wide.
Yeah, it's,
you know, even though the initial writing of the song might be, oh, you know, it's about this thing, the vision, but then you talk about it, like, oh, that actually applies in these areas as well. You know,
we're almost learning from this whole process where each Raw Truth episode we sort of discuss like the meaning of one of our songs. We're almost like learning more about our own songs and our own perspectives as we dig into them a bit more.
Yeah.
Like as much as we wrote them about a specific topic, as you say, the more you analyze the lyrics and the more we sort of talk about the meaning behind it, there's layers of meaning.
Yeah, and that's what I enjoy about creating art, because it is about perspective and people's perceptions, and there are different takes on everything, you know. That's like it. You paint a painting of a square and someone else sees a window, you know, or something completely different, and
that's it.
Everyone's interpretation leads to different results, you know, and
that's
especially when we're here to talk about the ideas and everything behind it, you know, it really brings out different thoughts from ourselves, and obviously other people have different interpretation too. So
as always, guys, we'd love to see your comments on the Raw Truth live stream. So if you do have any inputs or questions or whatever throughout the conversation, definitely chuck them in the comments below. We really appreciate that. So Kingdom of Fear. I guess we'll start off with when we wrote it.
Yeah, the first meaning of the song.
That's it. So we're talking about these layers, but the initial meaning of the song, it was kind of written way back when America invaded and killed Osama bin Laden and sort of brought down some of the Al-Qaeda terrorist things. The song was very much sort of against that invasion and the war, not necessarily saying that Al-Qaeda was, you know, we're not supporting them or anything like that, but this whole mindset of like, let's police the world, let's go and put our beliefs onto everyone else. Certainly we see that a lot with wars throughout history, and a lot of invasions, like both, you know, for and against things like America and Australia. We see it all the time. But this whole concept of like, let's go and invade another country and make them live the way that we live because we disagree with the way that they live, that mindset of trying to police everything is kind of what the song's about. And by doing that, you're actually creating more enemies than you are friends. You know, by invading and saying, hey, you should live our way, you should do the things that we do, you should believe in the things we believe in, you often don't create supporters, you create more enemies. And certainly by doing it by force, it definitely exaggerates that side of things.
So I guess the point being is that if we're going to try and change, well, we shouldn't be trying to change other people, you know. Well, if there's a problem over there, there's a right and a wrong way to go about addressing that problem, you know. If it's impacting you especially, but if it's impacting innocent people, then going into completely eliminate the problem through force, you know, is not always the optimal solution.
Well, that's it, and that's the meaning. The title of the song, Kingdom of Fear, is all about, you know, ruling the world through fear, through, you know, force and power, and saying like, if you disagree with us, we're going to destroy you. You know, that whole like controlling people through fear and through power and force is is, as I said, it creates more enemies than friends and more enemies than supporters. That's for sure. And that's kind of the message behind the song when I wrote it was very much like not necessarily disagreeing or not supporting America and Australia's war efforts, but more sort of saying like if we want to gain more people on our side, if we want to have more people sort of believe in the lifestyle that we live, the best way to do that is through education and enlightenment rather than going in and saying like if you disagree with us we're just going to bomb the fuck out of you and then you'll either not exist or you submit to us. You know, it's like it's just the wrong. I think it's the wrong way to approach conflict, and certainly it's the wrong way to approach conflict on a personal level as well. And that's kind of where we're sort of kicking off from today. As much as like we're not here to discuss war and the intricacies of it, but conflict in general, from a war scale right down to a personal scale with your friends, or work, your family, right down to internally. There's even conflict, you know, maybe inside your own brain between two thoughts that you might have or whatever. So all of those ranges of conflicts sort of have similar concepts, similar dynamics, and similar patterns and you know solutions even. So
yeah, and the point being is that when we see all these differences, especially in our own lives, we have people around us. Those differences are the things that actually contribute. You know, because if we do just live in a bubble of the same, you know, no one's going to get anywhere because no one's ever going to step in and question our opinions. So that's the whole point of, well, you can't do it all from a negative way and just like try and change everyone else because they're not like you. But the optimal solution isn't just to surround people who are just like you.
Well, that's it. Like, I mean, like we spoke about with As Darkness Comes and things last time, like the last couple of Raw Truths is, you know, where you are in your life, where you've got to, is because of the things that you know and the things that you do and the people that you hang out with and all of those things. So, like, if you want to be somewhere different, you have to bring in new ideas, new information, maybe new people, maybe new habits, new routines, new things. But certainly new information and new ideas, new perspectives will definitely help grow. Yep. And that's where growth comes from. But again, right from a personal level up to a political, global sort of economic scale, you know, you want to grow, you want to change, well, you need to have new information coming in, don't you? You can't grow with the same information that you have.
Yeah.
You're going to hit a wall. So that's the benefit of differences, I suppose, and bringing in those new perspectives. And but it's about the way that we do that. You know, we're not trying to control people and say like you have to live this way, you have to do this thing, and otherwise, you know, you're wrong. I guess that's where the communication breaks down, I suppose. It's in the process of providing new information or receiving new information.
Yeah, and I think, as it says, you know, in the description of the video, it's important to bring in that change, but we have to be open-minded in order to seek that change and to seek those differences. And, you know, one thing that's a good example is like friendship groups. You know, they're not all about 6, 10, 5 people, whatever, that all just have the same vested interest. They all live the same lives, you know. You have friends at work, you have friends maybe in social situations, and you have family members that you get along with and don't get along with. And in all the different areas of our lives, we have different people who help to formulate different opinions sometimes. We share a common bond maybe over one thing or another thing, but then the things they do outside of that is completely different. And that's okay. You know, like, oh, we're just at work to do the work together and we can get along, cooperate and have a good time.
Yeah.
But then you go home and you live completely different lives. It doesn't mean you can't work together and operate, you know, and get the job done. We can still work together as a team.
We can cooperate around a particular problem or a particular process or something, yeah.
Yeah.
And we can still be different people with different values and different perspectives. And like that even applies to us in the band. Like, well, you know, like as much as we're brothers and we have a lot of, you know, similar outlooks on life, we also live different lives with different values and different things that we do outside of the band. So, but obviously we're, you know, very tight when it comes to
common interest
stuff. So, yeah, I mean, that's the way the world works. Is it's full of different people with different perspectives and different values and different priorities and different ways of thinking and different ways of seeing the world. And that's kind of what makes it interesting, and it's what makes it diverse. You know, and there's a whole range of benefits of that. But the downside is it often can create conflict if we let it.
Well, for me, one of the biggest things that's caused conflict in my life is closed-mindedness to those new ideas. You know, when someone's coming in, and if I'm sailing my ship this way, someone comes in, it's like, oh, you could go over there. Like, no, don't try and change me. And it's like, oh, wait, actually, there's benefits to be had if I can pivot and, take on board, whether it's people's suggestions of, like, anything, health or the way you work or even your behavior and all those sorts of things. If I'm doing something a particular way and someone else comes in and gives me advice, even in the politest form, it's so easy to get offended by that because I'm defensive that I think I'm traveling down the right path, and someone else might come along and try and manipulate my path.
Is that the secret there though that you're saying? Like you're seeing them coming in to attack you rather than maybe they're looking out for your best interest. Maybe they're seeing the way you're going and they can foresee a problem that you're not even aware of.
Yeah.
And it's that open-mindedness of like, why are they telling me that I'm doing something wrong?
Yeah.
Why are they telling me that I should be doing something a different way? Maybe they can see things that I can't see.
Yeah. Maybe
they actually do care and don't want me to like trip over this thing that's so obvious to them and so not obvious to me. And I guess changing that, like you said, a closed-mindedness into an open-mindedness is about saying like, well, they're not just coming here to attack me. Like maybe they have some valid points. Maybe they have some things that I don't know.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
And maybe they don't. Maybe they are just trying to attack you. But I guess the open-mindedness as a default kind of allows you to sort of say, well, hang on, why are they telling me this thing?
Yeah.
Maybe there's something I can gain out of this.
Yeah.
Is
yeah, and I think the perfect example of that is at work. We're doing our job, we're doing it this way, and someone from a higher position will come in and be like, oh, change what you're doing, go do this other thing instead, and blah blah blah, and you're like, oh, what the hell, I was just down here, I was doing a good job, I was enjoying my thing, and I'm just sitting there looking at it from my perspective of like I'm operating on my task, and now someone's going to tell me to go do another task, and I'm like, got the shit with that, but it doesn't make sense because I can only see what I'm doing. Someone else is looking from the top down, they can see the bigger picture.
They've got a different point of view, a different perspective.
And so they're going to be able to formulate and push me in a more beneficial position for everyone. Like, oh, well, you're good there, but you're better off if you go over there and do this today for everyone. And I've got to be open-minded about the fact they're coming not to take me away because I'm doing a shit job or, take me away, they're trying to put me in a shit job because they don't like me or whatever. And so putting that ego aside and knowing or being okay that people know more about something than I do, being okay with the fact that people can see more than I can and they understand more. And I'll be like, well, that makes sense. Obviously, you're telling me to do something to the benefit of other people, not just to the detriment of myself. And that takes the ego,
That's the question, isn't it? It's like, why are they telling me this?
Yeah.
If you can ask that question, why, and have them explain to you why they're telling you to do something different, then you'll probably find that there's a level of understanding that's sort of like, oh, because they can see things that I can't see, or they know things that I'm not aware of.
Yeah.
Like, at what stage do you think people are trying to attack you to destroy you?
Yeah.
Like, somebody like your boss, or somebody like your family member or a friend, like, why would they want to attack you and bring you down? Like, if they're coming at, if somebody comes at you with some suggestions or some advice, like, do you think they're actually trying to attack you? Or do you think they actually care about you and want to help you get better or to improve something? Or, like, I guess if your default is like, oh, they're trying to attack me and destroy me, it's like, well, then you're going to have a rough time of it.
Yeah. Life's going to be pretty hard.
You're not going to have the open-mindedness because your default thinking is that these people don't give a fuck about me and they're trying to bring me down.
Yeah.
But like even somebody like your boss at work, like if you even if you hate authority and you just really don't like the whole concept of a boss, like why would your boss not want you to be successful for his business or her business? Like why would your boss want that? Of course the boss wants you to work better and make like the business more money and be more productive. Like that benefits the boss, it benefits the business. So if the boss is coming at you with a suggestion, like obviously it's to benefit things, not to destroy you. Like, the boss isn't going to want to destroy you because then you're not going to be a useful employee.
Yeah.
So if your mindset is set on a perspective of like when people come at me with things, it's to attack me. Like I think that's usually incorrect. Like unless you approach other people like that, and that's kind of the way you live life. Like I'm only going to go and give people some suggestions or advice if I'm like trying to bring them down. It's like we're all humans. We all care about each other. We all want each other to be happier. right? Like,
You'd
I mean,
hope
for the
so.
most part, like most people aren't cunts, generally speaking. You know, we're all humans trying to make our own way in the world, and like, I think there's a level of open-mindedness that needs to occur. Of like, well, if I was in that person's position, would I be attacking me, or would I be coming at me with some support and some maybe a new perspective or some information that's going to help benefit everyone?
Yeah.
And like, just that shifting of perspective to say, well, like, if they're coming at me, it's usually because they're trying to help me. That helps break down the ego and the defense mechanisms that we often put up, and that sort of block of like, don't tell me what to do, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I think that formulates into having a victim mentality, being exposed in the past, which is maybe something that people are brought up with, by being put in the position of like, oh, you're always making mistakes and you're always failing and you're doing a terrible job and blah, blah, blah. So if we get brought up with a environment that puts us down for trying and failing and trying and failing, and people always pointing out the flaws and not supporting the fact that you can learn from experiences, but being like, oh, you tried, well, that's wrong, here you go, do it right. Like, what the hell are you doing? You did it the wrong way. If you're being
Putting
brought
them
up
down and stuff.
yeah, if you're being brought up with that mindset, then that's the only way we know. And that's something I experienced when I started becoming in charge at work. It's like, wait, how do I actually give people, constructive feedback? I understand the concept of constructive feedback, but I didn't have any good references in my life to be like, oh, here's how you go about telling someone they fucked up in a positive way.
Well,
and actually sounding like upbeat and optimistic and all these things about it. I was sitting there really trying to formulate like, wait, every time I made a mistake, I've been criticized for that and being told like, what the hell are you doing? Like, that's dumb. Or putting an identity to me. And not that I'm owning that identity, but I didn't have any good examples to be like, oh, this is how I tell someone they made a mistake in a positive way. And, now I've got to deal with that every day, training new people and stuff like that at work. And so I'm learning really quickly, but it's really challenging to have to go and find, like, good references. Like, what exact words do I use? What's my tone, my body language to go and tell people, oh, look, you're doing a great job, but this thing over here, you made a mistake. And so what I need to do next time, we're going to do it like this. And don't be upset about that because we're doing it for this positive reason, because your mistake caused this problem, so we're trying to avoid that, and so next time we're going to do this thing and we're going to do it better, and really helping to paint the whole picture for them so they can see, well, this is where I went wrong, and this is where I needed to have gone the other way, and then that's how I'm going to get the right result next time. And really trying to be patient with that, because at the end of the day, I think that's what it comes down to. Like, I'm not going to let you learn, you're just a dickhead, you're doing it wrong, just go straight over there and you'll solve the problem.
But like, I guess that's what you're saying is you're coming at it from the other angle of like trying, instead of being on the defense, you're almost being on the offense and sort of saying like, hey, like, you're coming at it from the boss perspective at work, saying like, we need this person to operate in a different manner because what they're doing is not productive or it's not positive or whatever it might be. Like, how do you approach that conflict on an offensive position without damaging their ego, making them defensive, without, you're trying to get them on board, you're trying to lead them and encourage them and direct them to be better. But you have to do that in such a way that you don't attack their ego. So that they actually will be open-minded and listen to you. So, and I think like we all deal with that in various scales in our own lives, like whether it be with friends and family or whatever. Like, you might not be a boss at work, but still you have people in your life that you care about and that you might want to try and help or give them advice, but you've got to do it in such a way that's not attacking their ego, because then they'll get defensive and then they're not going to listen to you and they'll just bar up at you. And so I mean, we're all on both sides of the fence. In many different ways.
In our life.
So I think it's important not to take things to heart when people come to us with suggestions or information. But also, when you're approaching other people with suggestions and information, do it in a way that's not so aggressive and offensive and, maybe putting them down or whatever. So we've just got to be mindful of both of those things, I think, and that's kind of what really important.
And as Brendan said there in the comments, like, it all starts with listening and understanding. So we've got to have an open mind to take that on board and go, hang on, as you said earlier, like, this person providing me with feedback, probably because they're interested in seeing me win, probably because they're interested in seeing me do better, and it's important to think about that when someone's coming at us with criticism, and especially in Australia, like it's not popular for us to want to succeed and want to do more. You know, the tall poppy syndrome, and you know, when someone rises up, we all just cut each other down, like we're all stuck at the bottom.
That's definitely a common thing, yeah.
So really, when other people are trying to lift us up, we've got to think about that picture, because we're not trained, or we're not in an environment where we're used to seeing each other, you know, push each other up and win.
That's right.
We're used to being in an environment where people are trying to pull each other down, and you know, whether that's because we were founded by convicts, you know, who were all at the bottom and people weren't allowed to succeed, and that's just a mindset that's slowly evolving over time, but still really ingrained in our personality and our culture and everything like that. You know, it's quite interesting.
Sure. Well, like Brendan's also said in the comments there, so sometimes people have been burned so many times in the past that they've grown a defense mentality. So, I mean, and that's definitely, like you're saying, about upbringing and things like that. When you're brought up in a way or in an environment with people that do attack you when they're trying to give you feedback, or maybe they're just not even trying to give you feedback, maybe they're just like jealous kinds of people that are trying to bring you down, like that tall poppy mentality. When you are surrounded by that growing up, it is hard to be then open-minded to further feedback and suggestions. And that's something that, like, you know, certainly a lot of people deal with, and certainly something that you and I have dealt with in our upbringing. Like there's a lot of that sort of mentality. So you do become quite defensive. When people are saying like, oh, like, you know, maybe try this other thing, and then maybe they're doing it in such a friendly way, like, hey, like maybe try this other thing, and you're just like, whoa, like don't tell me what to do. I know what I'm doing. Like I'm good. I've got my information. Like, what do you know? And it's like, well, I think maybe one of the key things to take away from this whole thing, like either side of the fence that you're on, is ask the question why. Like, if somebody's coming at you with advice and saying like, maybe you should try this thing, ask why. Understand their perspective. Understand where they're seeing things from, and be like, why do you think that? Why do you see that way? Why do you think I should do this thing? On the flip side, if you're coming at somebody with some advice and suggestions, ask why they're doing things the way they are doing, and then try and explain to them why
they shouldn't be.
well, not why they shouldn't be, but like explain to them your perspective and say like, this is why I think this would work better. And if both people can ask each other and themselves why they're trying to explain whatever they're trying to explain, that's where the understanding comes from, and that's where the listening really impacts things. You know, it's like understanding each other's perspectives will create everyone working together on a better solution, rather than if we don't ask why, then we're just going to be constantly at each other. It's like this, and then somebody else says, well, this, and it's like, if we don't ask why, you're never going to get past that first sentence.
And especially on a bigger scale, if you want to talk about, you know, particular groups disagreeing with each other, if you want to talk about racial conflicts or you know, cultural conflicts, whatever the case may be, you know, how can we start to formulate an idea that's going to benefit everyone or a specific group of people if we can't understand what their reasons for acting are? You know, if we can't
understand what's going to benefit them.
Exactly. We need to be able to ask those questions and say, like, what is it you're complaining about? Like, what is it that you're after? You know, are you after more resources in your life, or are you after more freedom in your life, or what is, you know, there's no point going to invade a country and tell them that they need to live Western culture when that's not what they're after, you know, like if you want to go overrun a village in the Middle East or Africa or whatever, there's no point trying to set them up to be Australia or America, because they don't have the resources to support that.
Maybe they just have different priorities. Like, who's to say, and this is where the ego comes back to, who's to say that our way of life is the best way of life? In fact, a lot of people argue that it's not. You know? Like there's certainly different ways of living that are not the Western civilization that are quite successful, and people are quite happy and quite fulfilled in their ways of living, you know? So to think that you have the best way for everyone is it's factually incorrect, because different people don't value what you value. People value other stuff, and that's okay. In fact, it's better than okay. It's normal, and it's what makes life interesting and what makes the world diverse. So just running around thinking that everyone should live the way you live because they value the same things you value is actually incorrect. Like, not only is it bad, it's incorrect.
And definitely on a bigger scale, especially in a war situation, we can't try to oppress other people into our way, because they're just not used to it. Like, there's no benefit. They don't see the benefits.
Well, they're not going to be on board, like we said at the beginning. They're not going to be on board. They're going to be against you because you're trying to invade their space and tell them that their way of living is wrong.
Yeah.
Like we just spoke about with the boss mentality.
At work,
It's
yeah.
like, hey, what you're doing is incorrect. You need to do it this way.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, why?
Yeah.
I was happy before.
Yeah.
Like
Doing the opposite is not happier. You know.
Again, with more conversation, maybe your way is better, and if by explaining to them why,
Yeah.
they might be more on board. But they're not going to be on board if you just walk in there and say, you're doing it wrong. Fuck, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Do it this way.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to be like, oh, okay. Like, I'll listen to this guy.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, this guy's a tool.
Yeah. For sure, man. And so moving on from that, like especially in our own lives, as we we're talking about a little bit earlier, you know, having people who are different around us. If we have, you know, whether it's relationships or bosses or whatever, people who are going to start threatening us with the conflict because we're doing something different. Like if you're at work and your boss is trying to control you through conflict and say, look, you got to do this thing or else I'm going to fire you, you know.
Leading through fear.
Yeah, like that's not going to give me any good reason to act, you know, and I shouldn't feel the need to give in to that, you know.
Well, there's going to be like an element of control there. Like, oh, I'm going to get fired if I do this thing. Well, I don't want to get fired, so I better do what they say.
Yeah.
But you're not going to be on board. You're just going to be fearful and controlled.
Yes.
And that applies, again, from the personal level right up to the global scale of like, you know, running things through fear works in the short term because people are scared of you and they don't want to upset you, so they might just do what you say.
Yes.
But they're certainly not going to be on board. And as soon as you leave, they're going to do the thing that they want to do anyway. You know what I mean? Like it's not, you're not going to be inspiring the people or the team or whatever to operate in a certain way. All you're going to be doing is like while you're there as the authority figure, they're going to do what you say.
Yep.
And then as soon as you're out of the door, they're going to do their own thing the other way, and it's going to be counterproductive to what you want anyway. So
yeah. And it's quite interesting to see how many cultures, you know, governments, businesses, even relationships, you know, operate on that method. And maybe it is a little bit of the victim mentality creeping in, or, you know, just don't understand how people can think that that's an optimal way to operate in a team, especially at work or in a relationship, threatening to get results out of people as if you control them, as if they have nowhere else to be or nowhere else to go. You know, it's not a way to be a good human. You know?
It does. That's what I'm saying. It does work in the short term, but it leaves everyone unhappy and bitter and sour. But sometimes it does work, you know, and it can work for a while even. But it's definitely not optimal, and it's definitely not healthy, and it's not good, like, morally.
No.
By controlling people through fear is especially if you're talking about like a relationship or something, like that's not healthy. It's not happy. Yeah.
I mean, they talk about toxic people. You know, if people are threatening, like, oh, you know, I'll kill myself if you break up with me, or, you know, at work, like I said, you know, you're gonna get fired if you don't do this thing. We need to be able to have the confidence, if you want to call it that, to be able to not feel the need to be suppressed by people.
To submit to the fear.
Yeah. I mean, what does that come from? You know, that comes from being confident enough to know that there's more out there, there's other opportunities, and we don't have to
other options,
give in to these people, because they're only like at the bottom, you know, when it comes to the ability of people. If that's the way of operating, there's so much more to that.
Well, maybe they're trying to control through fear because they're insecure in themselves and know that there's other better things out there and don't want you to leave and go to those other better things. So that insecurity is what causes that manipulative mindset of like, I've got to control this person through fear, otherwise they will leave, you know, the job or the whatever, and then like that person's insecurity will have all the holes being shown. So it's almost like they're the ones with the fear, and they're trying to pass that fear on to control you.
Yes.
But it's their fear that stems that whole interaction. It's like, I'm insecure about the fact that I don't want to be alone, and therefore I'm going to like try and put that onto a partner in a relationship to make them not want to leave, because if I know there's better things out there for them, but then I'll be alone if they leave, so I've got to try and convince them not to leave by being manipulative and controlling through fear. It's like, I'm the one with the problem, not them. So I'm going to use my fear to make more fear for them, and then the cycle continues. You know?
Yes.
So I guess realizing that the person with the control through fear mindset is the one that's actually got the fear.
Yep. And I think at work and even relationships and everything, what I've found is like leading through love and positivity get you further, with the people that you're with. If you're going to live in a relationship of constantly dragging each other down, your relationship's not going to grow and get more loving and more enjoyable. If you're working with people and all you're doing is putting them down and telling them how bad they are at their job, it's not going to get their performance to grow.
No.
And
it seems kind of obvious when you put it like that.
Well, I think so. But you talk about a society,
Uh-huh.
we're not going to move forward and make good ideas as if every time someone comes up with an idea that we just tear them all down.
We just tell them all the things that's wrong with it.
Yeah, like we've got to give it a go sometimes and be like, well, that's different to my opinion. That's different to what I know. Look at that guy who came up with something. Like maybe that'll work, and we can support that.
Or at least ask why and see if there's any benefits in there.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to execute everything that comes up, but it's like, well, let's look into this.
Yeah.
Maybe it's different. Well, why is it like? What are they looking at it from? Why did they come up with that different idea? Maybe there's something that they're seeing that I'm not seeing.
Yes.
It comes back to that whole thing we talked about before about communication and being open-minded with that sort of stuff, I guess.
Yeah, and I think definitely learning to be okay with that difference and just simply asking that question will help you to support it and be, oh, look, this person's trying to get something better. They're trying to make my life better. He's trying to make my relationship better. Trying to make my community better. And
well, why would they have voiced the idea if they didn't think it was beneficial? Unless they're just, as I said, really just trying to sabotage the whole situation, which I would imagine 99% of people are not trying to do.
When I think about this, sort of local politics almost comes to mind. If you have some guy who, runs a good business or whatever, and like, oh, I could really improve my community if I ran for office and like made all these changes, but maybe the local political system doesn't really support people doing good for their community based on corruption or whatever. People who try and step into this sort of role get pushed aside, because people don't want the change. They don't want people with new ideas to come along and change everything, because the people who are already there just like block that out.
Like the control.
Yeah.
And are fearful of change.
Yeah.
Like we just said before.
Exactly.
They're the ones with the fear of like, we don't want things to be different because I can control things the way they are.
Yeah.
And if things start changing, then I'll lose control. I'm the insecure one. That's...
There's so many different levels of this. It applies in so many areas of life.
But like, I'm interested to hear if you guys like have. We spoke about before about having friends or relationships with people that have different perspectives or different priorities in life or whatever it might be. So like, they might even just be completely different people to you, but yet you have a relationship over a common bond. I mean, certainly like, do you guys have that sort of thing in your life? I mean, heavy metal is the common bond that we share with a lot of people that we're friends with, and maybe we do live very different lives, but we can still unite over, say, music. Music's something that brings a lot of people together.
Yes.
I mean, what do you guys think about that? But yeah.
Like, do you have any good examples of that? People in your life who maybe only one or two similarities, but so many differences or significant differences.
For sure. I mean, I've got friends in my life that we connect over, a particular interest, and a lot of the time it is music. But other than that, we could be completely different people living completely different lives. I've got mates at work that I work with that we connect over work, and we connect over, maybe the personal challenges or the psychological, what am I trying to say here? Like the mindset that it takes to do our job. We connect over something like that, or over a particular interest around the work. But then we go home and we live completely separate, different lives. It's everywhere in life, I think. Like, I don't really have... I would say I don't have any friends that are like exactly like me and that do all the things that I do and are interested in all the things I'm into.
Yeah.
I think that would be very rare. I mean, maybe not. Maybe you guys have friends like that. But I certainly don't have any friends that are interested in all the things I'm interested in.
Yeah.
We've got parts.
Yeah.
And we have parts that are different. And that's kind of what makes it interesting. If we were the same people with the same interests and the same lives, you'd have nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
It would just be like a little echo chamber of like, I'm talking to myself at that point.
Yeah. And I think something comes to my mind about putting myself out there, being okay to be me, who has different factors that make up who I am, whether lifestyle choices, the things I do with my time, what I do for work, what I do for hobby, my financial situation, all these things. Going and making friends in all those different areas will actually help to improve those specific areas, because if I'm looking at, for example, my financial situation from my perspective, but someone who's at a similar financial situation who's got there a different way, the way to get to the next step in that situation, we both have completely different ways to go about doing that, you know. And so if I can go out there and meet people who have one common interest, together we can formulate completely different ideas of how to go to the next level in that.
Well, they've got all this other experience of their life in totally different areas of things that you're not used to, and you've got the same thing.
Yeah.
You come together and you share information, you share knowledge, and like everyone benefits from that.
Yeah.
You share different perspectives. Maybe you're struggling with this problem, and all of your friends that are, you know, in your little circle, we're all out of ideas. None of us have any idea how to get past this little problem. But then somebody fresh walks in and is like, why don't you look at it from this angle? And there's your solution right there. And like a whole group of people could have been puzzling on something for years, not understanding how to move past it. And then somebody comes at it from a completely different angle and just says, well, try this thing. And everyone's like, oh, why didn't we think of this?
Yeah.
Because you've got your experiences, and you don't have the experience or the knowledge that somebody else has, you know? So
and I think
it's always important to have fresh perspectives in your life, I think.
Yeah. And I think for me, one of the biggest challenges is to go out there and be exactly who I am in those different settings and being okay with that. You know, I don't need to go to, for example, a metal show and just be a metalhead to fit in. You know, I can be me and fit in because we're all there for the same common interest. You know, I'm not going to something I have no interest in if I'm going to a metal show because I am me, but you are you, and everyone else is everyone else, and they're all themselves, but we're all here over the common thing. So we don't have to stand here and talk about the one common thing. We can be different people.
Talk about the different
over
things
the
that we're
same thing.
into.
And that's exactly what, you know, this is. We've got the raw truth, you know, we've got people tuned in from America and Canada and Australia, you know, all over the place. And we're all different people, but we're all here over the common thing. But doesn't necessarily mean we all have to talk about that. You know, you can talk about what you do and your situation, and I can talk about what I'm doing and my situation. And that can formulate different ideas and different pathways and everything like that for each other.
Yeah.
You know, it's good to have completely opposite standing there so you can see, you know, what the contradictions can be.
That's it. And like we spoke about before about dealing with conflict and the egos and all of those sorts of things. Like, I'm interested to see if you guys have, I don't know if you guys are, you know, in those sorts of positions at work or whatever, where you have to deal with conflict like that in terms of, you know, maybe helping people do things better at work, or maybe you're on the receiving end and somebody's coming at you with the problems and you're sort of like, oh, fuck off, like I know what I'm doing. I don't know, like what your situation is, but I'm interested to see how you guys deal with things like that, those sorts of conflicts. Whether you do let the ego take over and create more problems and conflict, or whether you have an open-mindedness to it, or maybe there's like another solution or another way of looking at things that we're not aware of. You know, let us know, definitely in the comments. So,
do you have any examples of that at your work?
At work? Well, I think, like I said before about the perspective, at work is very interesting, because like, I mean, working as a removalist, like delivery sort of person, I'm in a van with another guy, we're driving around, you know, we've got our schedule for the day, but then the office might come to us and be like, oh, you know, guys, we've got this extra job to squeeze in here, or something like that, you know, can you guys get this done? You know, maybe the initial reaction is like, oh, you know, we've got enough jobs on our plate, our schedule's full, like, can't somebody else do it? One of the other teams, you know, one of the other vans that are on the road, can't they sort that out? Well, why would the office have come to us with that if somebody else could have sorted it out? Maybe all the other vans are like chockers with their schedule, or they're running behind, you know, and they've contacted the office and said, hey, we're all running behind, we're not going to make this other job. And then the office is gone, well, we might give it to this team and they can sort it out because all the other guys are running behind. But we don't know what the other vans are up to. We don't know what the other teams are doing. You know, so we could get defensive and sort of say, like, you know, why should we have to do this extra job? Like, we've got our schedule, we've got our day. It's like, well, the boss is seeing things that we're not seeing. The office sees all of the van schedules and sees that these guys are running behind over here and these guys are caught up on something or in traffic or something, you know. And so they say, well, the best solution here is to pass the job over to this van. You know, and it's just the fact that we don't know that allows us to get defensive really easily. Or you can sort of say, like, hang on, what are they seeing that we're not seeing? Maybe there's some reason that they're asking us to do this extra thing. And then we can all try and work for the benefit of the team, for the company, you know, rather than just looking out for ourselves. So.
That's one thing my boss pointed out to me multiple times. It's like, if we all acted selfishly, the business wouldn't be here and none of us would have a job. So at the end of the day, when it comes down to a decision-making process, we always have to be thinking about the big picture of the business. Or else, if we're acting individually, we can put ourselves out of work. If my plan is to go in and be a shit worker, and all my customers have a bad experience with me, none of them are going to come back, and they're all going to tell their friends and family about how shit their experience was with our company, and that just brings everything down. And so, no matter what level I am at my work, like I look at myself as the sole reason that people come to me. You know, I am the representative to the people, to the customer. Everything
everyone is. Every employee is like, the reason the business exists is because of the employees, and it's for the employees at the same time. You know, it's like as you say, if all the employees just decide like, I'm just going to go in and do my bit and do my bare minimum and make myself happy, it's like, well, then the whole business crumbles, doesn't it? So then nobody has a job and we're all out of work. So like, we've got to play as part of the team for the team to exist, for us to then benefit. You know, it's kind of, it's like, it goes both ways.
And so you go.
I was just going to say, so David Connells here has just put in a comment sort of saying, you know, at work he finds it important to set very clear expectations to avoid issues down the track. So that's, you know, that communication is so important to, you know, you've got to set up those expectations of what it is we're all expecting, you know, the role in the team that we're all going to play. Like, I'm going to play this role, you're going to play that role. Like, once we all know that, we all understand that, then we can all operate together.
Yes.
You know, whereas a lot of conflict arises sometimes because two people are clashing with they're overlapping too much, or worse, nobody's been assigned something. There's just a job to do or a piece of the puzzle that nobody's dealing with because everyone expects somebody else to take it on.
That's something I've experienced a lot at work, as I was saying. You know, if you know that you're in charge of keeping these people over here happy, and you're in charge of keeping these people over here happy, then don't you go and try and impress those people, because that's Bob's job. You know, Bob's got those 3 people over there sorted. You got these 3 people over here sorted. If you're having problems, you know, you can talk to each other and maybe you need a swap or whatever the case may be. But don't go impeding on each other's work.
Don't go invading each other's territory and telling them how to do their job.
Yeah, and
back to the war and conflict.
It goes to each level, but I can set those expectations, and instead of them picking their own and then realizing they're doubling up and this other customer's getting left out because no one chose them, it's the manager's responsibility to get in and make those decisions, like set that expectations, as Dave said. And that's something I've experienced at work, like taking control back from my team and saying, all right, guys, like, these are all the things we need to do, and like, you choose which one you want to do, but like, we got to set that out from the start.
But then on the flip side, like we're saying, you know, maybe there's other points where like Bob's dealing with those people and you're dealing with these people, and there's a bunch of people that nobody's actually dealing with because you thought Bob was getting it and Bob thought you were getting it, and it's just like, then there's all kinds of problems that arise from that as well. So.
Yeah, there's holes.
And Brendan's just sort of said, you know, he's had a couple of managers that have come in pretty brutal to try and impress directors. So, you know, they're coming in with that authoritative boss, you know, ego-driven mindset of like, you know, hammering the employees for not doing their job properly, you know, for them to try and impress their boss. And it's like, you know, I think going in with that sort of aggressive, assertive mindset is not necessarily the best way to do things.
Well, at the end of the day, it doesn't get the performance out of the team, you know, because people are like, this guy's a dick, I don't want to work hard for him.
I don't want to listen to him.
Yeah, exactly. So it's creating all the enemies. And when you're at a certain level and you're making enemies below you, those people are the ones who are actually going to make you look good or look bad, you know, having broken that relationship away from the people who are underneath.
That's it. As the leader, you want the people below you to support your cause and to work for your team. Like everyone wins. If you treat them right, they'll treat you right. Everyone wins.
Yeah.
The whole thing moves forward. If you're the boss that's like burying the people below you, they're not going to make you support you very well, you know?
And it takes another level of self-awareness and even knowledge and experience to be okay to see that. And that's something I've seen at my work, you know, having a person above me who leads me by a good example. I then filter that down to my people and lead them by a good example, simply by replicating what's happening to me. You know? And it's like, this is the culture of the company overall. It's people at the top are leading the people below them in a particular manner. We want that to flow the whole way down, because no one's smart or dumb or whatever. You know, you don't have to treat someone differently, try and hold their hand or micromanage whatever the case may be. We all have a way that we want to do our best. You know, and it's like, well, if you do your best, there's rewards for you. You know, and
for everyone.
Yeah, everyone wins.
We all benefit. Yeah.
Yeah, you can get your bonus and I'll get my bonus, and everyone can do a good job.
That's it.
If we all come every day and do our little part for the whole team, you know, be the cog in the wheel. But we have to make sure we're all meshing.
Yeah, well, like you say about the culture, you know, it's one of the things that I really like about my job is that there is such a good like culture there of like support and open communication, as David said as well. You know, good communication really is the key. You know, and that's the same at work. It's the same in relationships. It's the same everywhere. Like even on the bigger scale of like governments and wars and things like that. Open communication and getting rid of that defensive ego or the offensive ego, you know, and just having open level communication of like, maybe the other person has information I don't have, and maybe they can teach me something. Maybe I've got some perspectives that they're not aware of, and sharing them in a way that's not, you know, burying the other person, or attacking the other person, I should say. Like that open, honest level communication, like everyone wins from that, because we all get new information, we all get educated, we all get enlightened, and we can all understand each other and work together for the team, for the benefit of everyone. You know, we can all move forward through cooperation rather than everyone manning the battle stations ready to attack each other.
And that's something that's very prevalent in my relationship specifically. When we go about being like, what the hell's going on over here? Like, there's a problem over here. This is why I see it's a problem. Like, what are we going to do about it? It's much better than coming in and criticizing someone because they're doing something differently to what I know. Like, oh, I expect something to happen in this particular way. So if it's not done that way, I go in and criticize. But it's like, oh, well, we meant to do the washing every Monday. And so Monday night, it's like, oh, wait, hang on, why didn't the washing get done this week? You know, like, did someone forget or what happened there? You know, and instead of being like, what the hell, you didn't do the washing, we're trying to go at it from a different angle and be like, okay, why didn't the washing get done? You know, oh shit, like you were busy. Oh shit, like we should have spoken about this yesterday, and then I could have made time to get it done. Just something simple like that. You know, if I can go in open-minded and maybe
rather than on the attack.
Yeah, maybe like thinking that someone else had something higher priority that came up, and not being, you know, closed-minded. You just think they were trying to make my life hard by not getting the washing done.
Yeah, they were doing it purposely despite you and just to attack you. Yeah, like, yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm going to screw this guy over that I'm living with who's like my partner.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and do everything I can to make their life difficult. Or maybe something else actually came up. Maybe they're exhausted from work, or maybe something else. You know, you don't know. You don't know what's going on, but not going to know unless you ask and try and understand. So,
yeah, man.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, when we talk about a song that talks about politics and war, I guess there's a lot of threads to be unravelled here, you know, and this is how we've got to where we are. It just goes down so many different layers, and it's definitely not something you can write a song about to cover all of these bases, you know.
No, well, that's the thing. Like, the message of the song kind of applies on all the different levels.
It does.
As much as it might be written specifically about one particular thing, it does. It has those layers, and it has that depth of meaning, I think, and a lot of our songs do. Like, they're applicable to, maybe the song is about some global political thing, or maybe it's about, you know, something on that sort of scale, but it also applies to the mental health, or the individual, or the personal relationships we have, or whatever, you know. And that comes, I guess, the dichotomy in all of this communication, which is what comes back to, like, the concept of the album as a whole, is like, if we're too busy wearing our flags of like red and blue, and like, I'm red, you're blue, and we're enemies, and, you know, fuck you, and I'm gonna do things my way, and your way is wrong because you're wearing the opposite color to me. Like, nobody's gonna benefit from that. All we're gonna do is create more and more conflict, and have more and more wars, you know, on whatever scale that might mean.
Yep.
You know, the best way to make progress is through communication. Getting rid of the team colors and saying, like, hey, yes, you might be wearing a different color to me, but like, what's your perspective? What's like, what do you think? Maybe you've got information I don't have. Maybe you're looking at things from a different angle, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of cliche, but at the same time, it's very applicable, and yeah, that's kind of the whole mission, the whole message, I should say, of the of the album as a whole. Is like the team colors mentality doesn't work.
Yes.
It just creates more conflict.
Yes. So yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up there, considering
Absolutely.
we've got a question about the rap and the vinyl. So
the album. That's right.
the album itself, if you want to get on board, as you're talking about, the red and the blue, or the mix in between.
We get both.
Yeah.
So we've got yes, absolutely. We've.
Our mate Michael there's wondering how many
Yes.
how many more orders we need for the vinyls.
It's less than 10. I'm not sure exactly how many. I think yesterday when
I was at like mid-60s.
mid-60s.
Something around that
yeah,
number.
yeah. Like I think yesterday when I spoke to the guys we had 9, but I don't know if you can bring it up there on the screen and see how many exactly we needed. But yeah, so for anybody that's interested, we've got CDs for sale, obviously a program dichotomy.
Yep.
We are currently collecting expressions of interest for vinyls. We're going to be doing 12-inch gatefold full color colored disc vinyls in the next few months, but we do need a few more names on the expressions of interest list for us to warrant printing them, because there's minimum order quantities and all of these sorts of things, and we can't afford to just be sort of printing a large quantity of vinyl, have them sitting out in our garage for the next 5 years. So if you guys are interested, please get your name on the sign up. There's a link in the comments below. You don't have to put any money down or anything like that. It's purely an expression of interest to say, like, when you guys are ready to order vinyls, like, I'll probably grab one. So yeah, jump on the little link down there below and sign up to the what do we call it? Not a petition, like a
Just put your name on the list.
expression of interest list. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
'Cause at the end of the day, we're just doing things that you guys want, and we've had a lot of interest in the vinyls, so we want to get them done.
Yeah, we're nearly there, and like I'm keen to have one.
Yeah, man. I mean, a lot of people have put their name down.
I want to see that artwork in like 12
You gotta-
inch, like.
You got to share your friends, Tell
Tell
your friends.
sign up, get a vinyl.
I know a lot of is it Brendan? There's a couple of other people who have themselves a little vinyl crew. Adam as well.
Yeah.
Adam, and it really helps if you tell your friends. You get them all on board for the vinyl. Share the love, and
Once
then,
we get to 75 names, we'll be printing vinyls, and
about 8 to 10 weeks away from that point.
there's a little bit of a wait at
Bloody
the
long
moment, but yeah.
process.
We should have them by the end of the year if we can get to the end of the list this week or next week.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think by September, we should be pretty close to getting there. So
Yeah, what have we got there?
67.
So what's that? 8 to go.
Yeah.
8 names to go. So yeah, guys, if you're interested, sign up at the link down there in the comments. If you do want a CD, hit us up. If you want to grab some shirts or a hat or a bottle opener or what else we got? Stubby coolers,
Yeah, man.
patches, anything Wartooth related, please. We got some cushions, I think, still. We
Yeah.
still got cushions. We sold
Yeah.
out of those things.
No, we still got some cushions.
There's not many left though.
No, I mean we've had some pretty passionate people get themselves some Wartooth cushions.
Yeah. So if you're interested in any Wartooth merch, hit us up on or either in the messages or the comments or on Bandcamp, wartooth.bandcamp.com. Get a hold of some quality Wartooth gear.
Yep.
Other than that, I guess keep sharing the stuff that we're posting up on the social media. Follow us on Instagram. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We've got plenty of music videos on YouTube. We've got plenty of Raw Truth videos on YouTube. We've got what else have we got up there? We've got a few like little acoustic covers and things like that. So there's plenty of stuff on YouTube. So jump over there and hit the subscribe button to get notified every time we post a new video, which is a couple of times a week at this point.
Yep.
If you're not following us on Instagram, please do that as well. We post different shit there to Facebook and all the other stuff. So if you really want the full experience, you're gonna have to be across all the different social media pages because none of them are the same as each other.
That's right. And if you really want the full experience, then you're gonna have to sign up to the mailing list, and
That's the full experience.
that's gonna give you all the insides and the outs.
That's it. So sign up .wartoothmetal.com for that one.
That's right.
Sign up to the mailing list, and we'll send you a few audio tracks of some of our songs.
The full audio tracks, all 9 days.
9 days of thrash metal boot camp. You get the full album experience, including some videos and some audio.
Yep.
You get some insight into each of the tracks and what they're about, and kind of, brief discussion of like what we're doing right here. What else do you get on the mailing list, mate?
Well, we talk about the war path and the journey that we're on, as individuals and as a team, moving forward. The struggles of life and different situation challenges we're faced with, and how we overcome those. Much like we talk about here on the Raw Truth, having those discussions and saying, look, these are some of the problems that we're facing, but here's some of the solutions that we can do to overcome those. And especially when it comes to music, like I said at the start, you know, being creative, creating art has multiple takes, but we can always have takeaways. And that's one of the biggest things for me is making sure we always have positive steps to take away. You know, whenever I learn something new in life or someone comes at me with something, this I can't finish that until I know what the next step is. Like, all right, where do we go from here? You know, you've told me this new thing.
Yeah.
I need actionable steps to make improvements. You know, so if we're going to sit here and point out the fact that war's bad or we got to be open-minded, like, all right, how to actually go about doing that? Like, will I actually need to go about asking people why they're telling me what they're telling me, or making sure I'm explaining why when I'm telling someone something else? You know, that's what that looks like. And it's really important to have something to act on, or else it just, you know, knowledge is useless without action. Yeah.
So say that again.
Knowledge is useless without action. You know.
Okay, that's good. I like that. Like, having all this information is great, but you've got to do something with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fair. Good point.
So make sure.
What else have we got? We're going on. We've got a new music video on the way, currently in production. If you guys want to be involved in that, hit us up in the comments or in a DM today, because after today we'll be closing entries. But yeah, we want you guys to be involved in the next music video, which is for Wired to Die. And so yeah, if you want to be involved in that, hit us up please today, right now, because we would love for you guys to be involved in that. And we'll be discussing that one next time on the road trip. But yeah.
Well, you don't want to tell them what it is they need to do, what they're doing.
That's why they have to hit us up.
Okay.
We'll explain it further.
So
yeah, definitely, guys. But we would love to have our, you know, raw truth warheads in the next music video. So definitely hit us up if you want to be involved. Otherwise, guys, have a sick Sunday and enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah.
Unless you got anything else to close with.
Well, closing point is we'll see is out with another song. So we'll show you another video to round this one out. But as you said, you know, thanks for coming along, joining in the conversation. Make sure you share it with your friends. You know, there's good points in here, actionable steps. Like I said, you know, make sure you go ahead and apply these. You know, be a better human. Don't be a tyrant. You know, make sure we're being positive in other people's lives, being positive to ourselves. You know, being open-minded, learning, growing, contributing. You know, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to make us a good human being. That's what's going to make us feel warm inside, where we can go out and make other people warm and not be a dick.
Don't live in the kingdom of fear, and don't be a king that runs with fear.
Do your thing.
Yeah, and that's the real truth. See you next time.
Go hard.